my 100th episode, everybody. Party people in the house. It's 100 episodes. We're celebrating 100 episodes of talking about motherhood, of talking about business, of talking about what it looks like to pursue holiness in everything we do. And today is no exception. Today, we're talking about how to increase family connection. And so, if you are nervous about the kids being home all summer, if you're nervous about all of them being home and fighting and conflicts and things like that, if you're nervous about how you're going to get work done, or if you are nervous about all the voices your children hear and you desire your voice to be the loudest, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Possibility Mom Live. Before we jump into today's content, I just want to share a few words of thanks. A podcast is something I had always wanted to do, but I felt like, I don't know, it was kind of like how I felt about writing my book. I felt like you had to be like, have made it or be like a super big personality or what have you before you started a podcast. And so I waited and put off and put off. Some of it was perfection, some of it was also just clarity around I don't know how to do a podcast or I don't know how to edit a podcast. So there was some of that involved as well. But I'm so grateful that I finally began. I will never forget my very first podcast. I recorded it in my upstairs guest room closet because that was the only space I could get in my house that was reliably quiet. Now I don't really care. You hear a lot of background noise on my podcast these days. But I remember sitting on the floor and I recorded my thoughts on giving birth to Colleen. At least I'm pretty sure that was my first episode. Maybe it was my second one. I don't know. But all I know is that I really wanted to capture all the things I was thinking about in terms of giving birth naturally for the first time, all the transition that we had made, moving from Toronto, Canada to Ave Maria, Florida. And I remember back then it felt so raw, it felt so vulnerable. And now I was laughing the other day. I think I told this story here. My dad was like, "Where did you film that podcast episode where you cried?" And I was like, "Dad, like that's like every episode I cry." So now it's just very normal for me to get on here and talk about real things, talk about things that matter, talk about what it looks like to pursue holiness in the messiness that is running a business and raising a bunch of kids, in working on your marriage. And so thank you so much for coming along for the ride, for being here, for all of the likes, for all of the downloads, for all the subscribes, for all of the DMs. They all mean so much to me. I'm incredibly grateful for this little corner of the internet. And thank you for being in my corner so often. I want to highlight a few of the podcasts that have been very popular around here. So, from all time, these are my 5 most popular podcasts. And if you want to go back to them, you are most welcome to. Unfortunately, I don't have the episode numbers for all of them right at hand, but we'll see if we can correct that for the show notes so it's a little bit easier for you to navigate. Coming in at number 1, my all-time most downloaded episode. This one surprised me, but so interesting. Episode 67, Spiritual Fasting for Big Personal and Business Goals with Beth Bubick. Beth Bubick is the Catholic fasting coach. She is a former client of mine. I helped her to set up her first program, Delay and Pray. It is a phenomenal program. It changed my thinking on, to be frank, weight loss in general, but spiritual fasting. What does it look like to involve God, to invite God into not only your weight loss, but just any goal or dream? A goal for your business, a goal for your life. What does it look like to really invite him into it and then attach some practices to it? Like, for example, not drinking or not eating sugar and flour. So fascinating. Go ahead and give that one a listen. The second one, second most downloaded podcast, Unique Ways to Find Time When You Have None. In this one, I talked about just what I've learned from practical, tried and true, hard learned experience of raising now 9 kids and running a business at the same time. And so in this one, I go into some really practical strategies that may help you, especially in these coming summer months at time of recording. The third one, 4 pitfalls affecting moms and how to avoid them. This one was a lot of mindset, I recall. This one, I talk about some sort of different things around, how moms can kind of put themselves into a little bit of victim mentality, how moms can kind of feel like they have no agency sometimes. That one was a really good one, I remember. The fourth most downloaded podcast on here, The Possibility Mom Live, episode 69, harsh truths around why your business isn't growing. Oh boy. I think this is the podcast that I have received the most feedback on, in terms of thank you for just being really honest about my behavior. Like, so many people messaged me about this podcast and was like, it's like you're inside my head. It's like, why I'm not moving forward. If you've been listening for a while, you know how much I care about motivation and how much I care about your thoughts creating feelings, which then will lead to motivation to act. And in this one, I go into a lot of mindset, but also some just like really practical things. Because if you want to have a business that makes you money, you have to actually sell something. And so just even basic things like that episode was a really, really good one. These were all actually, these last couple ones were all very much neck and neck, like they're one download away from each other. And the final one, my final most popular downloaded podcast from the beginning of time in 100 episodes, How to Make Time for What Matters, with author Laura Vanderkam. Laura Vanderkam is phenomenal. She has written copious number of books. I couldn't even quote how many, on time management, on work-life balance. She's written such interesting things about the pandemic and how the pandemic impacted our ability to work from home. And she and I have very, very similar sort of outlook on time, and how, like, why is it that some people can get a lot of stuff done, and why is it that some people seem to not be able to? And we go into a lot of that in this podcast. Her most recent book, forgive me, I believe it's Tranquility by Tuesday, I believe is the title. I might be slightly altering it, but that one is a really beautiful read on how to not feel so frenetic or hectic or kind of like wishing for the weekend. So again, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here, and to say thank you for my 100th episode, and to just do something fun that I have never done in my business before. We're doing something special. We're doing something special from now. So today is Thursday. It's a unique time I'm doing the podcast because I'm getting an ultrasound of this precious little baby in my belly tomorrow at my normal time. From now until the end of the weekend, Sunday, June 2nd, 3rd, 4th, from now until Sunday, June 4th, it's buy one, get one here at the Possibility Mom. So meaning for my 2 academies, the Wealth Without Guilt Academy and the Motherhood Without Guilt Academy, this is a $49 per month access to me as your mindset coach. I don't know where, I'm sure there's other places, but where on the internet you can get this kind of training, Catholic mindset coaching, and practical business application. That's my Wealth Without Guilt Academy. And Motherhood Without Guilt Academy is, how do you do life without feeling awful? Basically, at the heart of it. How do you do motherhood without constant guilt, constant shame? Time management programs are in there. Household management programs are in there. When you buy from now until Sunday, either of my academies, you're going to get access to the other one completely free. What? Now until the end of June end of day, June 4th, to celebrate my 100th episode. And you get it for as long as you're a member. What the what? So meaning you keep that membership going, you're going to get access to both my memberships for free. Buy one, get one, everybody. 100th episode. I know. Emoji face of, oh my gosh, because yeah, who doesn't want two fun ways to get coached? Alrighty, my friends, let's get into the heart of today's episode. Oh, and to go and take advantage of this offer, learn.thepossibilitymom.com/WWG. Just sign up for that. I'm going to have to do this manually because I didn't set up an automation to kind of give you access. So you'll just automated, or excuse me, manually, I'm just going to give you access to my other one when I see that you join. And like I said, just from now through to Sunday. Alrighty, my friends, let's get to the heart of this episode. Let's whew, because I've got 9 kids that I'm homeschooling at home. It's a very unique situation for us. Like we homeschooled like everybody else did during the pandemic, of course. But this is the first time we are electively homeschooling. It has presented all kinds of interesting challenges, incredible gifts. I've gotten to know my kids incredibly well, and I love that time I've had with them. But it's also presented all kinds of challenges. When I met Jennifer from Togather Moments, I was like, this is my kindred spirit. Like she gets it. She understands. I don't need another thing. I don't need another program. I don't need another complicated kind of layer to my life. But she has developed through her suite of products, through her just like listening to her, she has developed this very simple approach to increasing your family connection. And I think everybody needs what this woman has inside her brain because, again, there are so many voices in the world. I don't need to really go into that. If you're listening to this podcast, you are very likely very aware of many of the things that are happening with retailers today. My beloved Toronto Blue Jays just had a big thing happen. There's so many voices, and even in myself, of course, it can be so easy to just feel confused, swayed, even. And we want our kids, like we want our voice to be the loudest voice in our kids' brains, I guess, ears, whatever. If this is something that you want to perk up, perk up those ears, turn up the earbuds, because here we go. Welcome to the podcast, Jennifer Zumbiel from Togather Moments. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Lisa, and congratulations on your 100th episode.
Thank you so much. Look at your cute earrings. For those of you who are only listening, you don't get the benefit of seeing Jennifer's cute earrings. They're like a cute, are they coral or are they red? I can't really.
Oh, they're coral.
Oh, they're so stinking cute.
They look adorable next to yours, Lisa.
Oh, I know. We're like in matching fringe. So I had the pleasure of coaching Jennifer for the last couple of months. And, you know, sometimes I would vocalize it, but every time I would be like, mental note down Jennifer's outfit. Like you have the cutest, you have just the cutest everything. Like you have like these sweatshirts with like poofy sleeves, like everything you own. I was like, literally, I would take notes and be like, cute thing to add, add to cart, figure out where she got that sweater. Anyway.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious to me because I feel like I wear the same, uniform every day.
Because it's so cute. Like you always have a poof sleeve. You always have always done. Like always, you always, I mean, maybe a few calls you didn't have like full hair and makeup, but like even without full hair and makeup, you look.
Oh my goodness.
Alrighty, for anyone who might not know who you are and what you do, can you just briefly introduce yourself?
Yes. Before I get started, let me say something. This is funny that you were talking about your top 5 episodes, Lisa, because the one about spiritual fasting is the first one that made me even find you. Isn't that funny?
Oh my gosh, amazing. And do you remember how you found it? Was it just like random or?
I think it was like a, where they prompt you, if you like this, you probably would like this.
Oh my gosh, amazing. So
I don't know, because I think that was back around maybe November, and I was looking up some Advent stuff, maybe. I don't remember, but isn't that interesting?
I love it. And I mean, just the power of the podcast, like you've shared with me that one of my podcast episodes is what made you actually press like invest now in coaching. Like podcasts are just so interesting. They're so interesting because they can, I don't know, you can really change people's lives. Like so many podcast episodes have changed my life from some of the people that I listen to. So again, that's why I'm just so grateful to do this. I'm grateful that this is part of my work. I'm grateful I get to connect with people like you. Like it's just so fun. Okay. Thank you for that. And introduce yourself to anyone who might not know you.
Yes. So I'm Jennifer Zumbiel. I'm a wife of 19 years. We just celebrated our 19th anniversary last weekend. And we have 4 children. We live in Kentucky. Our children range from first grade to sophomore in high school. And I am here because I have this business, Togather Moments, where I am just passionate about helping families connect in the small moments. And like you said, let our voices be the loudest because we have so many out there, and we all know we're working with a lot of noise and busyness, and so we have to capture those small moments, and there's a way to do it in our busy families of 9 or our busy families of 4 children. Well,
Yeah.
11 or 6 is what I should say.
I love it. Okay, what was the impetus behind the name Together? Because it's a really interesting name. Like when you read it, so it's Togather, all one word. But you also explain it like it's to gather, like separate words, memories, moments, connections. So tell us about how you came up with the name Together Moments.
This is a great question. I don't know that anyone has ever asked me this. This is fun.
No way.
Oh,
Oh, come on.
yes.
Oh,
Is
come on.
that
Okay,
crazy?
well,
Like,
tell us.
specifically, how did I come up with that? Um, Goodness. So, I mean, we'll have to back up here, but I I just told you my oldest she's almost 16. And there's a lot that leads up to how we lived our lives based on really taking time to look at these small moments. But there was this point where my baby was not quite a year, and my oldest child was 8, and we were sitting around at a restaurant after church one day. We had gone to eat lunch, and I was so frustrated looking around and seeing the disconnection at the tables, and how these families were not even paying attention to what was right around them, right? They were either on their phones or they were having these off conversations where just mom and dad were talking. And I remember leaving there, and I looked at Matt and I said, there has got to be a better way. We cannot live our lives like this. We knew what was going to come as our children got older and we got more involved with things, and we were busy. And I went home that night. I remember nursing my baby in the middle of the night, and I just felt like God just kept saying to me, you've got to figure this out. And everything came back to, all right, if we all know that the time right now is busy and it's only going to get busier, we all have something in our homes and our families that keeps us coming back together, and it is our family dinner table. And I thought, that is the one place it is begging us to gather there. And so that's how Together, the name Together, was made. But as I started thinking about it, I thought, okay, so my background is actually teaching. I have a master's in secondary ed, and I taught high school. And I knew that I could get high school kids to open up about social studies content, talk about US history. And if I could get them to talk, I could get anyone to talk. So I thought, okay, I can make prompts to make families open up in very fast ways. And if we're going to capitalize on that time we have together, and we know that it might only be 30 minutes or less, then we have to dig deeper, get past the surface, lead to more conversation that's meaningful. And we've got to do that quickly. So I say all this because what happened was I started this whole business with just one product called Together. It was just called Together, and it was about peeling stickers at your family dinner table. Today, it is Together for family dinner, because we now have Together for date night, Together for Advent, things like that.
Just pause. Do you have a couple stickers handy?
I do, yes.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, I apologize, those of you who have this in your earbuds on Apple iTunes. Sorry, you can't see them, but Jennifer's holding up the stickers. So hold them up and like just they're so cute. So they're beautifully colored. Like there's navy blue and pink, which y'all know are like so my jam and favorite colors. But they're stickers. So tell us why stickers, because I previously before meeting you, I have many cards, like many conversation cards, prompts in card form. But I'll be honest with you, they kind of like stay in the closet, or they stay kind of with our board games. They'll get like scattered all over the floor. So I've always wondered why the stickers.
Yes. So exactly what you just said. The alternative out there was, the just print off a list of prompts online, get cards that you just flip through. And the those are all great. But the problem with that can be, we did this one last week. You keep flipping through and you think, oh, we just did this one. We just did this one. I already know how you're going to answer this one. And it doesn't feel very interactive. So it just feels like work or homework, or, just it doesn't have a lot of excitement to it. So I just thought, let's do something fun that's interactive, that gets everyone involved, that is fun for little children up to teenagers. And what you do is you open up a category, there's 7 of them, and you unfold the sticker page within, and you just peel a sticker. There's 15 stickers per category. The interesting thing, I remember one customer telling me early on, she had 4 teenage boys, and she said, I purchased this because I needed a way to get my teenage boys to open up. And what I find is that they all grab the book and they start peeling stickers, and they just don't want to stop because it's fun. They get silly with it. They put them on their heads. They slap them on each other. And so the idea is, you just peel it and you put it on your plate or your napkin or your leg or your forehead, whatever you want, and you just start talking. So one of the examples would be the warm and fuzzy category. And this was the first category I wrote because this was the one where I thought, all right, we got to get to these deeper conversations very quickly. And if the sticker tells you to do it, and it's not necessarily mom telling you to do it, then you'll talk about it. And you have these beautiful conversations that come up that you might not otherwise have, just by saying, hey, honey, can you tell dad what you love about him? That's not always going to be well received by your 14-year-old son. So if the sticker says, tell the tallest person a positive character trait they possess that you hope to emulate one day, then someone's saying something really awesome about dad. And then someone else joins in and says, oh my gosh, I felt the same thing about you. And then they're talking about what they hope to emulate one day. So here's what I want to be like, dad, because I see you like that, or whatever the case is.
Love it. Love it. So it's very organic. I'm curious, are the stickers reusable? Like,
so they're not reusable, but there's 105. So you can do one per table and everyone talks about the same, or all 5 of you can peel a sticker and use those. You can save them. I've saved them. We do have lunch stickers for lunch bags, but I've saved them before and put them on a little card and put them in my child's lunchbox.
so cute. What is your favorite prompt you've ever written?
Oh, goodness. Great. This warm and fuzzy category is so dear to my heart. I love it. Another one is tell the youngest person how they're a leader to other people their age. I love that category because I love watching my children say awesome things about each other. Gosh, no one has asked me that. I would say, okay, so I have Together for date night, and I have a couple questions in here that I just told you. My husband and I have been married almost 20 years, and we have been together for 27. We dated for 8 years before we got married. I know, it's crazy. And I have really loved, it's funny because he and I wrote this game together, this set, the date night, a lot of it. And there have been stickers that we will peel, and I still, after 27 years being with the same person, there are questions we ask each other that we don't even know the answers to. Isn't that crazy? And it's sweet. We'll end up telling stories about our childhood and things like that. There is one from the category Humble Pie in Together Family Dinner that says, share a risk you took that's made you proud. And I have always loved that question because I like my family to be able to come back to those moments and really see a moment in their life where they felt like they maybe went against what other people expected of them or what they should be doing in their peer setting, and something that they did that made them proud. So I've always liked that one.
Ah, so good. I just took a brand new assessment. I'm like a little obsessed with personality tests and assessments and all the things. I just took a brand new one, new to me, called your M code, and it measures your motivations. And it's such an interesting test because the majority of tests I've ever taken are multiple choice, or you're selecting your best, like which option best suits you, that kind of thing, right? This one was fascinating because it had you type out, like, I don't know how they do it. It's got to be AI driven. They have you type out meaningful stories of fulfillment from your life. And they had me type out at least 3 or 4. And then again, this is the part I'm like, how did you actually do this part? But then after you type out, and then they ask you specific questions like, what exactly did you do? Why did you find this particular story so fulfilling? Like, why was it so fulfilling for you? And then it asks you questions about the actual situation. And anyway, I'm gonna have to do a whole podcast episode on this particular assessment because it gave me such insight as to why I get up in the morning and why certain things absolutely drain me. But it was fascinating to recall my own stories. And I think I don't want to blame it on, oh, we live in such a fast-paced world, like, because we do. That is just a reality. There are many things going on, especially when you've got multiple kids potentially involved in different activities, or you're really plugged into your school, your community. Of course, there's a lot of things going on. I just sort of feel like this exercise of recalling, like this exercise of looking back on your life and examining, recalling why, well, these stories that have made us, these stories that have contributed to potentially, like, why we respond to things in a stressful manner. I'm doing a lot of somatic work right now, somatic coaching. So in your body, like, where are you feeling stress and whatnot? So lots of stories come up with that. So I just think it's so helpful. Like, it's such a helpful tool for us to look back, to recall. A lot of celebration can happen when we look back and recall, and a lot of healing can happen when we look back and recall. So I love this so much. All right. At time of recording, we are moving into the summer. And for some people, this is a scary time. For some entrepreneurs, this can be a very scary time because a lot of moms, a lot of the moms I talk to are a little bit stressed out about how they're going to continue to work with kids at home. For some moms, it's the opposite. They've got built-in babysitters now. They've got older kids home. So now it's a little bit different for them. I know for some people, they feel like they can actually do more work now because they've got more help at home. But what encouragement would you give to the mom who is feeling overwhelmed? You recently ran a challenge that I thought was so intriguing and very simple, with some really simple strategies. So what encouragement would you give to a mom who's feeling a little bit stressed about all the kids being home this summer and wants to increase family connection?
Okay, I think that this goes back to your whole philosophy, Lisa, on not having guilt. So I think one of the first things we need to do, and this is what I talk about this all the time on my own podcast and anything that I put out there with anything for Together, the whole idea is you connect in these small moments. So the very first thing I would tell anyone who feels like, what am I going to do this summer? How am I going to keep it all together, is think quality over quantity.
Mm.
Always have that in your mind, that you don't have to have these 2-hour picnics at the park to make a memorable moment for your child's summer. You can have 10 minutes sitting at the counter, making a snack together, having eye contact, and talking about what they played with in the dirt this morning. You can have these really quality moments without them being large. So the first thing I would say is just tell yourself that. Mama who is tired out there, who wakes up and thinks, I can't even think of a fun adventure to do today. That's okay. You don't have to leave the house. You don't have to plan anything big. You can have your work appointments that you have to do. You can have the chores you need to do, but there are ways to make these things happen. So you were talking about our 3-2-1 challenge that I just did for in the month of May. It was 2 weeks of accountability through emails and a Facebook group. And we're going to do another one after the school year starts in September. So there is a place on my website where people can just get on the list to see what that's about when it comes back around. But one of the things that we started the whole challenge with was noticing. And we're on here talking about all those noises out there. And for us as moms and parents raising our children in our homes, there is so much coming at us that you mentioned a few things in the opening, but I think a lot of times we find ourselves, if we are not careful, we can find ourselves in this whole season of parenting playing defense instead of offense. And we have got to be more careful anticipating what's the next move. If we do this with our family, what fruit is going to grow? Well, let's back up. What seed am I planting? What fruit will grow? Therefore, what will I harvest? What am I going to harvest this evening because of what happens today? What am I going to harvest next week, next month, and 10 years from now because of what I do? And if we are constantly playing defense, then we are just reacting to what's in front of us. And I think one of the greatest gifts we can do for ourselves as mothers is stop long enough to notice. So I was saying this is what we did in our 3-2-1 challenge. And just a very simple thing you can do right here, listening as we talk or as we end this episode, is just notice these two things. What naturally brings your family together? What naturally connects you to your child? Is it, those moments where you catch them at breakfast and they're super chatty? Then maybe you don't have a chatty child. So that connection point is, I don't know, when you pick them up from whatever activity and they're in the car and you turn off the radio, and that's something that really works for you. What naturally connects you in your home? Is it when the kitchen counter is clear, everybody sits there because they know you'll place a snack there and they just want to sit down and hang out a little longer? What makes you connect with your husband? Is it when the activities for the night have ended and you're able to just go sit on the porch together and talk? I don't know what that is for you, but my first challenge here is notice, just think about those things. And once you figure out, oh, I already know my 8-year-old loves to go on a bike ride with me. Guess what? You can do that in 10 minutes. You can have that conversation in the car at pickup in 10 minutes. If you're proactive and turn the radio off, you can go connect with your husband for a 15-minute walk in the neighborhood. You can do these things, but notice them. The second thing I would say notice in yourself any habits that naturally keep you from connection. So this could be anything from let's use the counter for an example. Do you naturally keep that? Do you always drop things there? So it tends to be cluttered, but that if it weren't cluttered, everybody would sit there and hang out more together.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be one thing. Or it could be as big as you don't have a bedtime routine. So you're always waking up tired and you don't have the energy to do these things or have that conversation or whatever it is. So notice what brings your family together and notice some habits just personally in yourself that if you change, you would immediately create more connection.
Oh, I love it so, so much. I would love you to do a podcast episode with Kelly Shube. She is a pediatric occupational therapist. She's another past client of mine. I love her tremendously. And I was telling her I struggle just with the volume of children I have because to observe all of them, okay, I can do mental note and be like, okay, I know what my connection points are with all of my kids. But then now, okay, where am I going to find this time to do it? And it was so interesting. She shared very similar to what you just shared. I forget the exact phrase she used, but she was like front end it. So meaning start your day, get in the dirt, like just do it. Like just, and she was like, it was so interesting. She was like, 10 minutes of playing in the dirt will be like worth almost like 2 hours of you sort of trying to work on the computer beside them and then being like, okay, let's build something, like, and then coming back to the computer and getting frustrated and then going back and being like, okay, let's build something else. She was like, just get in the dirt, be super focused and intentional. And she was so, it was so interesting to me. She was like, that 10 minutes is almost going to be worth more than 2 hours of you being distracted and kind of trying to manage a lot of things, right? And then she also really encouraged me to leverage bedtime, like just kind of that's your really for specific kids that really need it, that can be, your extra cuddles, your extra, because typically for me at bedtime, I'm not really all that distracted. Like I'm not thinking about, oh, I've got a call to get on or whatever. Right. And so she was like, just use that like very specifically and strategically, like you're cuddling with the children who really need the physical touch and all the things. This is just so, so interesting. She also gave me the suggestion of um, a mom question box. She was like, when you're on calls, like literally leave I think she had suggested an actual box or like a notebook where some of your kids can be like, oh, they want to tell mom something or they have a question for mom, literally like a comment box at a restaurant. It's so funny. And she encouraged me to think about that because I was like, what do I do for some of my older kids who need like a different kind of level? So that's what I want to ask you. For little kids getting in the dirt, playing with them, tea parties, I can picture that, right? What about our older kids? It really intrigued me when you said I can get my kids to open up about social studies, like my high school kids. I've got some kids who are older who are very melancholic. So the temperament, um, when I learned my older kids' temperaments, that really, really helped me. And when they learned mine, it really helped them too. It was fascinating. Just recently, we did this I had spoken at this event in London, Ontario. And in the program for the event, I had the organizers put in this chart that helps you understand what ideal conditions are for all of the four temperaments and whatnot. And my son just saw it kind of in the car and he was like, well, what is this? Can I like read it? And we had a long conversation over like a 2-hour car ride about all the temperaments, what is mine, what is dad's, what is his. It was fascinating. So what advice have you got for that same kind of level of connection when it's a little bit more cerebral? And when maybe like yes, it could be done in 10 minutes, but what happens when it actually probably needs a bit more time? Like what advice have you got for connecting with older kids where it may be like cerebral, bigger conversations that need to be had?
So the first thing I'll say is when you were talking about temperament, I was thinking of love languages
Mhm.
and knowing that about your children, because once you know those things, you can instantly connect. So I have one child who's very much her love language is touch. So if I just sat down with her and put my arm around her or, sat and just tapped her legs if we were sitting next to each other or whatever, then that's instantly like, oh, okay, you're here to be with me, right? So I think knowing your child's temperament and love language is huge. For the older child, one prompt that I think always gets our children to open up is, tell me what is frustrating you today, or tell me what annoyed you at school, or whatever it might be. And we have our children that we know want to complain about things. And I think that is such a good gateway to some of our teenagers, is letting them just open up and complain, because then it brings in, and I will say, we have to get ourselves, I have to get myself in the mindset of, okay, do not go down the road of, reprimanding or too many annoying mom lessons out of it or whatever, right? But a lot of times it naturally will bring itself to what you said earlier, was telling stories. And when we can share stories with our children, especially our older ones, of, hey, I get it. I know you think I'm ancient. I lived way before you. But here's a situation that I dealt with when I was your age, or that I currently deal with as an adult, where, yeah, I feel left out too. Or I'm frustrated and don't want to do these things either. I don't feel motivation to do this either, or whatever you're talking about, or anything that you can relate to. Have this little bank of stories you can pull out to your children. And you were asking about, how do we do that in the moments that we know will take longer? There are definitely times where even recently, I've had to have conversations with my children about different things, or I knew I wanted to get to the subject, and I just put it off for a couple of days because I knew we didn't have more than 10 solid minutes.
Mhm.
So I think grabbing your children, just simple things like, hey, let's go for a walk. Let's walk up to the ice cream store and grab something. I know you have been wanting this smoothie. Let's go to the store and get it, and hop in the car with me. And every other sibling, you say, nope, I'm just going with Anna today, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the car, how many times as parents have we heard, get them in the car for those big conversations because they can't run away. And they're there, they're a captive audience.
Yeah.
So I know that's not like a one size fits all answer, but I think those are things that, again, we just have to notice anticipate that next move. What do I need to talk to them about? How much time do I have? Where do I know that they'll be happy
Yeah.
being? And let's get them in that environment. And I think a lot of times we have to take our children out of that common environment too. So going up to sit for ice cream, or go for a quick bike ride, or whatever, can naturally kind of break down some walls.
Yeah, so many things. I want to just reflect back. We used to go to karate. My oldest child used to be in karate, and it was a good 40-ish minutes, maybe 30 minutes away from where we lived in Ave Maria. And we got in the habit of, one kid got to come. So I would take him, my oldest child, to karate, and then one kid got to come. There was a Dunkin' Donuts right beside karate. And it was just the sweetest little date, and karate was maybe 45 minutes. So it was like just the perfect amount of time to like enjoy one little treat. And just the other day in the car, one of my youngest kids was like, remember mommy when we went to Dunkin' Donuts when John had karate? And he just kept going on and on. My cutie pie James, he's 6. And he just kept going on with vivid detail of like the kind of donut he had, and like what we did when we were there, and we took a walk and all the things. And anyway, but so even in the busiest of families, I do think that it requires some strategic planning. But yeah, to your point, and I remember hearing a parenting expert talk about the utilization of the car. And when I reflect back on my own childhood, we only had my dad who drove. My mom, it's a funny story. She would renew her license like every 5 years or whatever it is, and they would always be like, "Wow, Mrs. Santos, like you have an impeccable driving record." but it's 'cause she never drove, but she would always renew her license. Um, but I can recall in the car with my dad were just so many meaningful conversations about life. So I think using the car strategically with our older kids is super duper smart. And then the final thing I want to reflect back, just for everyone, is this does require it requires strategy, but it also requires study. And this is why personal development, of course, with a Catholic lens of the human person, is so important to me, and why I will just keep talking about this stuff till I'm blue in the face, right? It's like you have two options. You can go through life not aware of what motivates you, not aware of your triggers, not aware of why you get mad in certain situations. Sure, you can do that. Or you can go through life with almost like an encyclopedia amount of information on how you operate, on why you operate certain ways. It's why I'm so obsessed with coaching. It's why I try to provide coaching at the most accessible level of $49 a month for my monthly academy. I'm like, why would you not go through life armed with this knowledge, with the impetus of, I'm trying to get holy and I'm trying to get my kids holy. And so I'm going to just arm up with all the information I can to help me understand them. Again, I won't go too much into this, but many of you might be familiar with what's going on in my life right now and like the healing I'm going through both physically and emotionally. And we all just, again, this is not anyone's fault. It's not our parents' fault. Honestly, everybody did the best that they could. We are all doing the best that we can, but we all are going through life with things that have happened to us that contribute to the way that we see the world now. I get mad at certain things. I need immense amount of control, or at least my brain thinks that I need immense amount of control in order to feel safe. That comes out in really ugly ways for me. And I've had to work incredibly hard to kind of, soften, to invite the Holy Spirit, to invite the grace to soften a lot, like a lot. But if I didn't do that, what do you think's going to happen? I'm going to continue to raise kids who need control and think that control is the pathway to safety, Like, and I just sort of think, again, it's like you can go and live that first way if you want to, but you know what happens that way is we literally just, what's the word, proliferate, I guess, like we just continue these patterns of baggage that are just not necessary, and it's completely possible to change them and change the trajectory of like so many people's lives. And again, it's funny, I remember telling my therapist long ago when I started to have these like big ahas about just like myself and how I react to things and why I get so angry about certain things. And I was just like, are my kids just doomed? Like, are we all just doomed? Are we all just doomed to like have things? And he was like, even therapists like, mess up their kids or whatever, like everybody has free will. We can't control everything that happens in our life, even when we are doing our very best to, um, you know, walk a very holy walk. Like we just can't control everything, right? But my point in sharing this is like, why wouldn't you want to have this intel? Why wouldn't you want to at least attempt to have more peaceful, more recollected, arguably more, grace builds upon nature, right? The ability to hear the voice of God more. When we are angry all the time, again, I'm nitpicking on myself over here, it can be very difficult to hear the voice of God when we are running around so concerned about the house being clean and this and that and how people's behaviors have impacted our lives, our days. Like it can be real difficult to hear the voice of God. And ultimately that's what we want. Let's close this conversation with voices, because this is the line on your website that just pierces my heart. It makes me both like pain, but also excited and like motivated completely to do this kind of work. You have this beautiful line on your website. There are voices, there's so many voices in the world, and we want yours to be the loudest. And again, like I said, like even when that comes out of my mouth, it's like a mix of pain and relief. It's like I want so badly for my voice, for my husband's voice to be the loudest voice in my children's heads and hearts, you know, and obviously God's voice. Like we're not trying to be above God, but I just mean all like their friends, their you know what they're reading, the media, like you know, and we do obviously. I think people listening here, we all do our best to control or to be aware of the kind of content they're consuming. You know, a lot of people here I know are very conscientious about that stuff, but of course, like we want our voice to be the loudest so that when friends or other forces are being like, yeah, you should try this or you should do this, or we should just lie to your parents and say we're going somewhere else, that it's the voice of God and the voice of us our, as parents that are coming in real loud. So tell us about just like, why is that so important to you? Um, and to just the philosophy really of everything you do at Together.
Hmm. I Well, I will say, as you will, and many parents listening, I feel like the world I'm raising my almost 16-year-old in today is very different than what I thought it would be when she was born. And the older I get and the more parenting experiences I have, and mess ups and successes and all in between, is that if we do not stop, we have got to stop caring about what is out there and focus on what is in here. It's the in here part that we have got to have so much control over and so much um, conviction over, and really know exactly what we want. If we do not know what we even want, and I know you and I have talked about this, but when you wake up 20 years from now, this is a question I have asked people before through Together things. What do you want to look back on your family and know that you've created? What do you want that to be? And if we do not know the answer to that, then the other voices are going to be louder because we don't even know what we're trying to accomplish. And it goes back to that offensive, defensive thing. What do you want to do? And it's not hard. You know, you were talking about on here, the when you started your podcast, you were thinking, I'll put it off till it's perfection. And if we all do that in anything in life, including how we parent our children and those big conversations we want to have, and those things we want to say no to when the world says yes, or the things we want to say yes to when the world says no, if we keep putting that off till we feel perfect at it, we will never do it. And we're going to get to the point and look back and regret. And, you know, regret is an emotion that we have because it's surrounded by something that matters. It was something that mattered to us that we knew we should have done or we wanted to do. And we missed that. And those voices out there is what should motivate us every single day to wake up and get in the dirt. Like you said, do it. Just do it. If you have those bad moments through the day where you yell at your kid, you're fighting over lost things, that is okay. That's life. But is your day sprinkled with all those little tiny moments also? Or did you start your day with it? Because when you lay in bed at night, those are the voices that you want to be louder than even your own voice that was yelling. You want that other part of you to be louder.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to leave everyone with, when you get in those moments where you feel like, I can't, I'm just tired, I'm exhausted, and I don't want to be happy and dig deep with my child today. Like I just cannot do anymore. There is this little thing that I say a lot on the podcast, and it has helped me so much. It is stop, drop, and fold.
Mm.
And when one of your children or your spouse or a friend, you can use this throughout all life. when someone comes to you and you know that you have the opportunity to talk to them and give them your attention, or continue with whatever thing you're doing or distraction you have, whether it's the dishes, the laundry, your phone, your work, another conversation, whatever. There are times where we can definitely stop, drop, and fold, and we know that that's a better option. We stop what we're doing, we physically drop it, put it down, and we fold our hands.
Oh, I love it. Fold your
Folding your hands is, well, you can say, "Come, Holy Spirit," if you want, because you can't, whatever the folding is a metaphor for you. But for this, it is fold your hands so that you don't pick up what you wanted to grab.
Ooh, that's a
Folding your
really good one. Stop, drop, and fold your hands. That is a amazing, simple.
And
That's so simple.
it really is, and it makes you lock eyes. It gives you the eye contact. Folding your hands forces you to have that eye contact. And when we have eye contact, that opens up everything else.
Well,
We're listening, we're paying attention, we're validating what they had to say. And it also made me think about, if we don't, uh, if our child comes to us, or somebody comes to us and they have something to say, and we say, hold on, hold on. And there are moments where we absolutely have to. I'm not saying we drop everything all the time for our children, but everybody knows what we're talking about here, right? But there are many moments where we know when we do not answer our child, it doesn't matter to them anymore. They say, never mind, never mind. I don't need to talk to you about it. It's okay. And we can miss a big opportunity there.
yeah.
And I thought of that before when you said that the idea of a suggestion box for like a question box for mom. And so I think we could put all this together. And this is where we're coming full circle here. We can be the possibility mom, where we can make these things happen and sit in our office and do these things that we have to do, or do the mountain of laundry and not, and tell our children, no, that is okay. But we have to have a plan. And if one of those plans is we always stop, drop, and fold when we can, but honey, there are times where I cannot come to you, and what you have to say is so important to me. I want to know. I want to hear your heart. And in those moments where you know that I cannot come to you, I want to make this simple for you. Here's these cute little things I printed off, or whatever you want to do to make it fun. And I want you to drop it in this envelope, and I promise I'll get back to you. Tell me the story you want to tell me before you forget. Ask me that question. Tell me what you want me to buy from the grocery, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's not too small or too big. Put it in there. And that is a 2-minute conversation I could have with my child. You could go to your child right now and say, hey, I was thinking about this. These are some ways. Everything you say to me is really important. And I feel like lately I haven't been giving you that time. So I thought of this great solution. I think it'll be fun. And these are just moments where we can make our voice louder than everything else. Even when those distractions are still there, we cannot get rid of them, but we can make our voice louder.
Oh, this is okay. Stop, drop, and fold is going to be like a really massive game changer for me. But one thing you said that I really want to highlight is your voice is the loudest, including when maybe you've had a voice that was screaming and yelling and maybe not so positive, not so peaceful. You can make the calm and attentive and connected voice like more. Just the other day, I'm not proud of this, but one of my kids was playing video games and was completely engrossed. And we were in public, like we were at a library, and I needed help with the baby. And I was like, hey, 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 like, hey, like, there was like 5 things going on. My other little kids were painting. It was just a bit of a like, it was just a bit of a disaster in terms of like managing a lot of little people with paint in a library. I don't know. I love my library, but I was like finger paint with 3-year-olds in a library. And she was like, it was so cute. Like one of the kids had paint all over their hands, and then they went to the librarian and were like, where do I wash my hands? Like, and like covered in paint. And I was just like, nobody thought this through. Like, that you don't want paint going through. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, we got to go wash these hands. Baby is like over here. And I was telling one of my kids, like, got to get off the video games, off the computer, like at the library, and go tend to this child. They were not getting off. And it escalated. It escalated. My, nerves were escalating. And of course, I lost it. And I was not proud of that. But that's what I've learned through all of my different parenting coaching, through working with people and learning from people like you. It's okay. Like, I had a moment, but I can make a repair. And so, like, after I had calmed down, and there were consequences to that action, don't get me wrong, like to the child. Um, but later on, I just held them and I said, listen, like, I used to love video games too. I get it. It's so fun to like try to beat a level, whatever. And so we want those voices. So for anyone listening who might struggle like I do with maybe being a little bit controlling or perfectionist, and you're putting guilt on yourself for not having all these moments of connection, just like that, I think is such an important takeaway, that your voice of calm, your voice of connection, your voice of empathy can also be louder than the loud voice. All right, listen, I can talk to you all day. I'm so sorry, but I have to ask you one more question and then share with us where people can find you. In 20 years, when you look back, what do you want to be proud of that you've created with your family?
I want my family to love Jesus. So that is my number one. I want them to just grow up and have such a strong faith. And I want them to know that our family is their biggest cheerleaders, their biggest fans, and that we travel as a unit no matter where we are, that we can always be together and be there for them. And I just think that we cannot dismiss that what we do today is going to build everything for the future, and that we can't fill our days with so much busyness that we forget, and then we think we didn't plant those seeds. What happened to them?
Yeah.
I mean, I could answer that question a million ways, but in today's world, Jesus is on, like, they have to. That is what I'm building everything towards.
It's a great answer. Jennifer, where can people come to learn more about you, to order your stickers, to get more connected with your work? Where can people go?
They can come to the website at togathermoments.com, which is also our handle on Instagram and Facebook. And our podcast is Families That Stick Together, with new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.
It is such a joy to spend time with you. Honestly, like, I'm sad our coaching engagement is done, because I would look forward to our calls like tremendously, because I just find you a very joyful presence, and I just really love the work that you're doing and believe so much in your mission. So thank you, Jennifer, for joining us today on the Possibility Mom Live.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Your coaching in my life has been such a gift and a treasure. And this is just because we ended our coaching session doesn't mean it has ended. I will be back for the more coaching.
I think you're going to be in my mastermind one day very soon. Elizabeth says, this is so timely for me. I definitely needed this and will be implementing some of these suggestions. Thank you so much, Jennifer. We'll have to have you back real soon.
Congratulations on episode 100.
Thank you so much. Guys, that was just, woo, ladies, that was really powerful. I'm going to, that stop, drop, and fold. But just the thing I wanted, just in closing, Jennifer gave me that question a while ago. Like, I can't remember, just in one of our coaching calls. I must have obviously stumbled upon it. Like, in 20 years, you look back on your family and what do you want to be proud of? And I have been thinking about this for so many weeks, in light of all the things that has occurred in my family's life, with illness and hospital stays and moving countries. And I just want my children to trust the will of God in their life, no matter how difficult it is. This is enormously difficult for me. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to even like pass this on. But that question, in 20 years, what do you want to look back on and be so proud that you've created? I think this is just such a valuable question to ponder. And when you have this clarity, there's different versions of this question, of course. You could think about like the end of your life. Tony Robbins has like a rocking chair test. You're sitting on your porch and you're older, you're in a rocking chair, you're looking back on your life. I've talked about, your obituary. Michael Hyatt has a great book, and Daniel Harkavy, Living Forward. There's many different ways that you can look at your life and gain clarity on how you want to be remembered. But the point is that that's not just some pithy or fun exercise. Like we talked about today on this podcast, plant the seeds now that will make that happen. And so I just really want to invite everybody to take a page, take a literal sticker out of Jennifer's book. In 20 years, you look back on your family. What do you want to be proud that you've created? My friends, it's episode 100. One final thing I think I'll just say about starting something maybe before you're ready or whatever, like those first two podcasts, like they're still live. You can go and listen to them. They're terrible. Like the audio is terrible. There's so many things about them. There was no format, there was no strategy in them. I just started talking. And I didn't upload consistently. There was one point where I was uploading to the wrong account, and so I couldn't understand. I think I uploaded it like 3 times, but I was uploading it to some other account that apparently I have. I had no idea, and it wasn't showing up on iTunes. Long story short, just start. It doesn't matter. Like, just start. It could be terrible. That's okay. Even if it's terrible, you've now gotten the hard part out of the way. You've gotten the hard part out of the way of just beginning. So if you've ever wanted to start a podcast, if you've ever wanted to write a book, if you've ever wanted to start a business, if you've ever wanted to get a little bit more knowledge, if you want to stop yelling, if you want a better marriage, like all the things, you've just got to start. And you could start so easily by popping earbuds in your ear and actually then taking content like this podcast and then putting into place in your life. And then, of course, come join me in the academy. It's 2 for 1. This is a pretty epic deal. As long as you remember, you get access to 2 places for the price of 1. Just come on in. Come on in. It's going to be great. All right. Thank you. Happy 100th episode to me. Everybody, have a great day. We'll see you next time on the Possibility Mom Live.